good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
Audio is rolling. Video is rolling. I was the only one not rolling, I'm presuming. And sync clap.
And we're live.
Yeah. What's good, people? It's your boy Icarus, Wakanda Forever Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Wakanda Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
Oh, we back.
Oh my gosh.
When you try to surprise TJ and forget lines.
It was a surprise.
Oh,
It is a surprise.
indeed.
All
I'm
right,
going
so-
to do like you did last week. Week.
Huh?
Week.
Oh, got it. All right, so today, obviously, we're talking about Wakanda Forever. We can skip all the intro bullshit.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about a few things regarding Wakanda Forever. The funniest part, right, is going to be the beginning. And watching it in theaters with people of color versus watching it in theaters with white folks. Two different experiences. The themes, the story, and we'll have a geek session in the end with all the Easter eggs and things of that nature. All right, so my experience watching this with other people of color, right? And you watched it with a kind of generalized audience, so to speak.
There was not a lot of reaction in our theater.
Okay, so first big reaction when
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about everything. So if you have not seen the movie, I advise you not listen. But by the time this comes out, it really ain't on us if you ain't seen it.
yeah, that's your fault. We doing this anyway. So here we go. So Riri is a character, right? The one that plays. What is her character's name? Like what is the superhero name for?
They were very on the heart with it. It is Ironheart.
Ironheart. Thank you. That's what I needed because I don't have that comic book background.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ironheart is introduced on campus, and one of the things she says is, "I'm studying differential equations," and then the crowd erupted with, "Go, girl, differential equations. I ain't never heard of that." And I was just like, man. I think it's great, right? So the feeling of hearing that is not disruptive, and with watching movies with a black audience it's not disruptive for me,
Right.
obviously. But when they responded that way to differential equations, I was just like, oh, okay, this is new for us.
Yo, that is hilarious. Like I said, our thing was quiet outside of the jokes. So they didn't go crazy or start laughing at differential equations. They started laughing at when she goes with your ashy bald head. And she was like, "I told you that the makeup was bad." And she was like, it's not bad. So that was hilarious. And they laughed where appropriate, but for the most part, I feel like everybody was in there like having emotions.
All right, so you said your audience was basically not the audience that was like responding to this movie in a way that, like, you know what I mean, like, things that are special to people of color, or things that are normal to white folks are seen as special to people of color because we don't experience it very often. So let's make an example of this, right? So like our AP classes at school, right?
Yeah.
So I had the experience of being in our AP classes at school. Did you have any AP classes or pre AP classes?
English and geometry. I don't think I had pre AP, but I did have some AP classes.
Okay.
That I cared not about.
Okay. So, but that experience, as a Black person, when you walk into that pre AP class, it is 90% what?
White. Or at 90% other than me.
Right. So mostly not Black, right? So
normally
white,
it would be white,
Asian, Black,
Indian.
Yeah.
Would be the amount of the class. Like however small amount of Asians that were at each of our schools, they were all majority of the time in these classes.
That's not the important part. The important part is
My bad.
The important part is when we went into these rooms, we were the outliers. And so experiencing what some of the terminology that they're saying in this movie as outliers or individuals that would have been in a different classroom, like we wouldn't have taken that class in high school, calculus or, specifically calculus. We wouldn't have necessarily taken that in high school.
The other thing that I think is interesting to note about the way the movie shows that is they show it from the viewpoint of it being normal in Wakanda, but then the real world not normal of how young she is, how smart she is, the fact that she's at MIT, which I'll talk about later, but that's a whole nother, aspect of like showing the differences and everything. Because it's normalized in Wakanda for everybody to be that level of intelligent. Yeah,
but let's talk about it now, right? So she's at MIT, and this is special because we don't get to see ourselves there that often.
Oh no, I meant more so there's geek stuff about her being at MIT.
Okay, so it's an Easter egg. Yeah. I think my point in that is saying that, like, all right, so MIT is this technology institute that I would say not a lot of people of color interact with on a regular basis or even know about, right? So our discussions are usually like this state school or this, prestigious school versus like HBCU, right? So this is something that's within our discussion when we talk about higher education. But MIT is not normally on that list. And so when you see this character going to MIT, there's a lot of praise from the audience because it's kind of like it's celebrating this individual that sort of not necessarily made it out, but made their way and showed how Black folks are intelligent.
And the other thing that was interesting about it is the working twice as hard aspect, because they hint at that in a certain way in her introduction of getting payment from one of her white classmates for helping him with her project. So not only they show the hustle, on top of the fact she's smart, she don't really have to do that. But like adding that in adds that level of grit and working hard that I think we always look for in the movies, or in that movie specifically.
Yeah. So where are we at with themes? And I've added a few to the list, just kind of thinking about our overall themes. I think about intersectional dynamics, slavery, grief. Is there anything that you think we should have?
Those three were the most pivotal. They did very seamless. The Easter eggs were seamless in a way that's not as abrasive as the other movies, because they were allowed to focus on the story that they were trying to tell.
Yeah. So when I think about intersectional dynamics, right? So for those of you that don't know what intersectionality is, it's just when you talk about your identity, there are multiple facets of your identity that are going to cross over in different realms. So, for example, I'm a black male, a black cis male, right? So I normally have heterosexual relationships. And as a black cis male, my intersections are I come from a military family. I come from a family of folks that have college degrees. So I'm not first generation in that regards. I have I have siblings. We didn't have a nuclear family, but that's something that I'm achieving for in my own family, and so forth and so on. Right. So those are all some intersections that I have, and the power that I have in this country will change based off of my intersection. So because I'm prior military, right, the training that I experienced in the military helps me navigate this country a little bit better because I experienced that. So that's intersectional dynamics. So maybe I can ask first, like, what are some intersections about you that stand out?
For me in this movie, it was
for you personally.
For me, that I am. Mother, dad, well, divorce, the kid of divorced parents.
Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity in that sense. College dropouts I can connect to. Having living in the hood, I guess. I mean, it doesn't feel that way, but by viewpoint, it would be that way.
Yeah. But I would say that based off of my knowledge of your family, I would feel like your family was in the upper range of like income earners, even though y'all lived in that space.
Yeah.
So when I think about upper range, I'm thinking upper 10%, which is folks that collectively bring home more than $100,000 a year. Is that true?
Not that high.
Not that high? Okay. It is the South, right? So it's a little bit different.
But somewhere in that range to where it's like, even though like we didn't like go without.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mean, like same with you, I was not first generation, but that was just more so because my mom came from, the country, like farmers, hardworking, everybody does a job. She worked fields and farms and everything else. I come with an intersectionality of understanding what Jim Crow South was.
Right.
And all of these different things because of my grandmother and her teachings to me. And just the general awareness of who I am is something that's intersectional. Like they were very adamant to teach me who I was.
Okay. So when I think about the intersectional dynamics of this particular movie, we're looking at Black folks and we're looking at Hispanic folks that were both impacted in a negative way, right? So the Atlantic Ocean plays a part in the telling of this story, and we can kind of break that down a little bit later in the story piece. But the intersections between Hispanic culture and Black culture is that there is both suffrage through colonization. And with that theme of colonization in this movie, like, I guess I'm trying to draw out a question, but what do you feel like they were trying to say?
I feel like...
What do you feel like they were trying to say, not where?
They were trying to say a more elegant version of what they said in the first movie. So you start with us in the intersectionality of what they presented in the first movie.
Describe us for the audio listeners.
As Black people, in terms of in dealing with slavery and dealing with systemic racism and everything that we deal with, dealing with the pillaging and pilfering of our people, our culture, our artifacts and things that are in museums and not in their native lands. They are traveled around as though the people from them either don't exist anymore in some ways, or there's that like they shouldn't be in their actual home place. It's often said that the only reason the pyramids are still in Egypt is because they're too big to move. And so, you know, in the first movie, they present Killmonger and how his thing is, I'm sick of being oppressed in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We're going to do the oppression to get, like, you're not going to oppress us no more. We fighting. We're fighting everything. We're fighting with force. We're not fighting with words. We're not fighting with protesting. We're fighting with everything. And they present that within our dynamic of how we, you know, our ideals. Do you protest peacefully? Do you protest with force? Like, what is the bridge to getting the equality that is deserved and rightfully owed? In this movie, they present it the same way, but give it, again, a separate context of he has, and Namor has actual power. Killmonger had to figure out how to get his. Namor starts with power, is a king, has been a king for years, has seen these things, and is approaching it from an opportunity has been given. I don't trust people, and I'm not going to trust people, and I don't care. Like, you either with me or you're not with me, which is the same. It's just, I think the only difference is the level of power that was given to him or given to Namor, if that makes any sense.
I'm missing the boat on what you just said.
Oh God, how can I make this simpler? Hold on one second.
What are they trying to say with the intersectional dynamics here?
They're trying to say we have the same struggles. How we attack them are maybe different.
We as who?
We as Black people, we as Hispanic people.
Okay. Understand
the battle of systemic things going on in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. Oppression
in general. Now, with the power that I have, what do I do with that? If I say that I'm going to stay, I'm not bothering nobody, I'm going to stay to myself. If you try to come get me, I'm taking everybody.
Yeah.
And I will not allow the safety of what we are or what my people need to be circumvented by anything that you got going on.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah, and that was the thing that they did better with explaining in Namor's character than they did with Killmonger, because they want you to not side with him and think that he's too extreme.
Yeah. So my view on this is that, so people of color, what they're trying to say is people of color have two different battles to fight. We have to decide how we want to interact with each other to fight systemic oppression and to combat that oppression. But we also have to fight with the oppressors as well. And so that's where it gets concerning for me, right? Is the movie highlighted the problem and sort of came to a resolution at the end, but didn't really touch on. It didn't spend a lot of time touching on how we need to focus on a different fight.
True, but I also think that's mostly because it was a B story. And I told you what I feel is the A story, and we'll get to that. That was their A story. Like, the B story is they're going to build that up with whatever is going to happen to and or with Wakanda.
But see,
to that point, to an actual answer.
My issue with that is it's too important to be a B story, even though the grief part is a big deal. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's you can't just at the end say, hey, why don't you join forces and stop being so bitter so you can, you know what I mean? Like, why don't you just step together and then tell your folks to be more kind? Especially when we are, the intersectional dynamics between people of color is that we're fighting for similar resources or similar ground for power. This is why we have issues with one another oftentimes.
Right.
This is why, in some there's a model minority conversation, and that model minority conversation is the closer you can be towards white acceptance, the more likely you are to have or gain a little bit of power in the system. And that's where I feel like this movie failed to like address a little bit of that. I felt like they tried and they gave little nuggets of it, but they didn't do a really good job of showing that the infighting is not what our focus should be.
I didn't see it that way, only because I think that given our conversation in the last episode about like violence in hip hop and so on and so forth, like a lot of times that is the actual answer. People just don't like it.
What do you mean?
Like,
what's the answer?
The answer in the sense of like what she did. You said it wasn't like this deep answer. It didn't like expound.
The people, for the listener,
or when you were saying that when she's like, "Oh, I'm bitter. I shouldn't kill you. We should work together to try to do these things and be a power together." Like, I am making a choice that I can kill you right here. I'm still doing the same stuff that you doing. I don't want to kill you. But the only other thing that I have to offer you, if you will not step down, is death. And I need you to step down because we need to work together. We'll do everything that we can to protect you. But this is the only thing that you currently understand in this moment.
I think that's where I disagree. Is that it's not a binary sort of option. Mm-hmm. It's not step out of it's not cooperate or be killed. It's for us in real life. Right. It's not cooperate or be killed. It's cooperate because we have bigger fish to fry, and the other option is that we do it separately, which hasn't been fruitful for us.
But I also say that because we're also dealing with the fact that the infighting didn't help and resulted to certain things. And she's having to make a decision based off the murder of her mother from this man.
I feel you, but I'm not talking like...
No, I'm saying like if that was removed, I can go where you're going. But that story plot point in that way is going to make it that.
Yeah, I feel you, but like this is what I'm saying is wrong with movies.
Right.
Is that they make it so it's so story driven because it needs to be, right, to sell tickets or to keep people engaged. But what it's missing is the nuance. That this is not a nuanced this is a nuanced conversation when we're talking about the whole of things, and the movie made it a binary choice. And so I think maybe we should make it, they could have portrayed that in a different way. Yeah, and they could have brought the nemesis, what's his name? Namor. They could have brought Namor to the United Nations meeting that they had. Okay,
because I was just about to ask you what would be the way you would have handled it story-wise to give what you were looking for.
And they could have said, instead of them just being protectors of them, they could have said, all right, so look, we're partners, and this is what we experience as people of color. You pit us against one another. You blame things on one of us, so the other one has to defend themselves against the other. And then we both end up losing as folks of color, right? So I think that should have been interjected in the story in some sort of way once they came to their resolution.
What sucks about it is it would have been hard for them to do with these particular characters. Like that I do agree with, but Namor's objectives are still to just, I want to wreck shop on everything and I'm going to get to. and they gonna help me.
Well, I think he wants the wreck shop because he wants to keep his place a secret.
Yeah.
And you can't keep it a secret if you come out to United Nations and say, I want to, what?
I was just about to say, in the blackest rapper way possible, or at least the gangster way possible, you can if there ain't no witnesses. Is what Namor is saying.
That's the point, though.
No, exactly. Like, it's terrible. But I'm telling you, that's why, like, I do wish for those things in terms of resolution.
You got to be ready to burn the whole world if you're ready to kind of take on the colonizer. And that's I think it's not a fruitful solution, right?
No, because then you just end up, I've always said you end up in the same place if you treat people the way that they treat you.
Right. You become the oppressor.
Yeah.
All right. So I think we touched on that. Like Neymar's issue was slavery, right?
Right.
And
his inciting issue.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed is that they portrayed slavery in two different ways, right? So they had folks jumping off ships into the Atlantic.
Man, okay, I wasn't the only one that the imaging was heavy in this movie.
And then they showed the conquistadors that came over from Spain to Central America and basically gave disease and enslaved a bunch of people, whether they be African slaves or Hispanic folks or native Hispanic folks, right? So the Mayans or is it Mayans?
Yeah, it was Mayans because they're his specific sect of people was the Mayans. Then when he came back, that would have been good God,
Aztec.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
would have been that sect of people at that time.
Yeah, so indigenous folks.
Yes,
to that Central American area. So, do you think they did a good job of explaining some of these concepts of slavery in the story?
I think that they did, but I also feel like it shows how our folklore. I feel like they even use black folklore with this new creation of Namor, because Namor wasn't. I mean, he is a mutant, which they mentioned, but there wasn't this time period placed on it, at least not from my recollection. And
what do you mean in the movie?
In terms of when he was, because he's been alive for a very long time.
Well, they flash back to 15 something AD,
yeah,
and when that helped because you saw him grow up a little bit, and that couldn't have been that long removed from there. So, like, I think the audience could have.
But the connecting point that I'm trying to make here between all of the folklore of black people and everything else is Lupe Fiasco did, Dragas Waves. And in the first half of the album, he talks about the slaves who fell off the boat, and I think there's like a tale of them like becoming a merfolk, if you will.
Got it.
And
so they
use that with the smallpox stuff.
So yeah, there's a lot of mythology here, right?
Yes, so much.
And it even extends to what came first, the chicken or the egg, when it comes to Greek mythology, right?
Yeah.
So Hermes is this god, also known as Mercury in Roman folklore, like is the god who has wings on his heels. And you have one of the same entities in Norse mythology as well. So we have all these overlapping mythologies within different cultures and different ethnicities. Yeah, I wonder, like,
and the sirens. If you think about
right, the sirens, they're singing in the ocean and drawing people towards the ocean, and yeah, so that it's a big deal when it comes to mythology and slavery. Backing up a little bit, right? So what I think they did with slavery, or did they do a good job of showing it? I believe that I don't know if it's going to have the same effect that, like, what's that one show that showed the Tulsa race riots?
Oh,
they know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. So yeah, the way that impacted culture and said to people, oh shit, we didn't know this happened. Like, I'm afraid that the stories that are told in movies like this are so surface level that they won't echo past people of color. People of color will feel the impacts. People of color will talk about, oh, dang, well, this happened. But there'll be only a small fraction of folks that are not people of color that will kind of talk about this in reality.
Yeah. And I think that's the plight of, Black people in comics specifically, or in media.
I think that's the plight of, yes, media in general, right?
Yeah.
Because to their credit, right? So Stan Lee, the rest of the team at Marvel, at their time, and even now, do a good job of combating social ills.
Yeah.
I have an issue with, I think that media is one of the only mediums that can actively get people to change their minds about this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because there's that collective empathy that's shown when they watch media that's not shown when we're having a political debate about something.
Right. But there's also the hard part of the fact that it's entertainment, and there's still other stories that they are trying to tell. And when we get to the next part, I'll tell about, like, because I did love and enjoy the movie overall, but my only gripes are what we're gonna talk about next.
So the grief.
Yeah.
Right. So where are you with that?
So for me, obviously grief is ever present because of the year that I had last year and losing 4 family members within 2 months that were very close to me. So seeing this movie, even though there's like time jumps and time skips and things, because of still how quick it is in seeing what's going on, it was very triggering to me to start with a funeral, then get through, middle half of the movie, have another funeral, and then, kind of like have to deal with all of these different things and how people feel about it, and emotions that I've had, whether it's anger, whether it's trying to sort out, am I doing what those who are now gone would want me to do? Am I handling myself in that way? Am I mad at the world for our handling of COVID? Am I mad at the world for how we all responded and acted within each other? Do I think that's even something that they could know how to do? Was all in this movie. And what made me sort of like it hit even more for me is it wasn't like they created a new kind of villain or something that T'Challa failed to. What they did was, which was the third triggering part for this for me, was they just took basically the real life Chadwick Boseman's life and what happened to him and put that in the character in the movie in a way to honor him, I guess. And so that was triggering because now I'm reliving that in terms of the connection point and all of the things that they're doing. And you're going through everything that Shuri is feeling. You're going through her lack of spiritual connection when things are bad, and our rejection of spirituality when it's just like, well, where were you when, like, these people should not have died this way? No God existing in the world would allow people to die in ways like this. So he can't exist, and all of that kind of feelings, and how she kind of comes to feeling the reality of the things that other people believed in her own way. So it was a lot. I don't know. It was a lot of grief and grief dealing with it, how you're going through it, and what you're trying to do on the other side of it. But earnestly, what do you think about the way that they use grief in the movie?
So I have 2 different views of this. I don't know if they're competing or not, so I'll get them out and then I'll determine whether or not they're competing. So
Let's see.
For one, I enjoy how they interwove
the Chadwick Boseman's real life.
Boseman's story into the grief. and the sort of suffering in silence kind of piece to it. It did not trigger me. I have been like, I'm over his passing at this point.
Right.
And it didn't trigger other feelings of other passings in me. So I compartmentalize that way. I like that part. I like that they were able to, well, I'm losing my train of thought. So I like that Boseman's story was woven into the story.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think it was difficult is that it took too much airtime.
Okay.
And I believe it was sucking away from the story of a new hero,
mm-hmm.
where that needed way more airtime than his story. This feels like a tribute movie, mm-hmm. and which it's hard to do a tribute movie and tell the new story, which is where I am. You know what I mean? Yeah. I want you to go ahead and tell the new story, because that's why I'm here. I'm not here to just mourn Chadwick. I'm here to also move a little bit forward. Yeah. And I think that step forward was a little too little. You know what I mean?
Well, honestly, and this was my only critique of the movie, is it's basically a soft reboot. It's or retelling. Yeah. Because what they did is this is by and by the same story between Civil War and Black Panther. It's the same. It's just actually, it's the only thing that's different is if you take out Chadwick Boseman, if they decided not to do any sort of anything with him, right? Then what you would have is you would introduce Vibranium and Namor. You would have the Queen die, much like in Civil War when Prince T'Chaka died. And then you would have Black Panther with him stepping into the position and trying to figure out what he had going on and dealing with Killmonger / Namor. And they're like, people are coming at us, but the only difference is like we have to have intersectionality versus there being like, I immediately understand what you're going through.
Yeah. But my thing is like, fuck a soft reboot. Just get to the thing.
Yeah. But now I think, and I think that now it's more set up for.
Why am I paying for a soft reboot? On. You see what I'm saying?
No, I get you. I get you, and I understand. But this was also it was also this is all this was with very hinted clues to things they're setting up for later.
I feel you.
So there was no. So for you, the person who is, or anybody else who has seen all the other movies or has even just seen the last one, there was not going to be a lot of moving forward because they're trying to set up a lot of different things, which we can talk about in the geek section. If you, I
think they should set that up somewhere else on other properties, whether that's animated or you know what I mean. Tell it with other stories behind the scenes, like how we got to building this bridge to all these new things, right? Like, please, save me the trip to the movies to set up some shit. Yeah, you know what I mean. Because I'm not here for the setup. You can give me that backstory very quickly in the first few minutes of the film. The other part that I liked about Grief is that they didn't put a CGI Chadwick in here.
Oh my God, I was afraid. I promise you, I was afraid.
I'm afraid of that.
That was gonna happen. I mean, I think that they will eventually use it, so I'm not.
Please don't.
But I think it's gonna be years from now, and I think it'll be when they're. Can we? Let's just get to the geeking out. Unless you have more to say.
No, we can't skip over the story.
Go. Well, I want to geek out because there's I think when they get to the T'Challa, young T'Challa. Mm-hmm. In his growing up, I think that they'll use it then. Because what they've done thematically, Ryan Coogler talked about this a lot, is he used a lot of the Lion King themes in Black Panther. So
I noticed that big time, especially the Nah Sabanya.
No, there's like they have shots to where they were like just and I was just like
the elephants freaking out. I thought T'Challa was about to come in a cloud.
No, her laying over her mom is Simba laying over Mufasa. Like it was, and he did it in both movies. That's why I'm like,
I thought for sure T'Challa was gonna come out of a cloud.
Oh man, for sure. Now I love what they did. I love that in her ancestral plane,
my sister
was Killmonger. Oh, that was. I feel like they didn't have to try and go back to the.
You deliberately disobeyed me.
What's up, Auntie? Oh no, you said Simba. I was thinking about when they tried to recreate the "Hey Auntie" moment from the first movie with Siri. He's like, "Hey niece" or whatever he said, or cousin or whatever he said, and it was just like, this does not have any impact. I don't need this here.
Yeah. So with the story. I think we have covered quite a bit of it.
Yeah.
And so, what's the geek session?
So, first and foremost, I want to tell you, if you want to blame anybody for why this movie had to be set up this way, blame Fox. Blame Fox for holding on to rights of things that had nothing to do with them. So now they have to. I'm
not blaming Fox because they've been had them rights.
So. No, they got the rights.
They got them rights back.
Yeah, like a year ago, like 2 years ago, they bought. So they don't get. So I still blame Fox because
you don't like Bleak.
Yo, like Bleak, yo. Man.
Good luck with that, bruh.
They don't have to do soft reboots. Stop wasting my time.
But here's why, like I said, I blame Fox. So first thing is introducing Namor, the first real. Well, they introduced Miss Marvel as a mutant, which she was intended to be a mutant in the first place, but because of Fox, they couldn't have her as one. So now Namor being clearly a mutant, which is why he was stronger than everybody, has the wings on his feet, so on and so forth. That was an amazing Easter egg.
Opens up the X-Men story.
Opens up the X-Men story even further than they're already doing. Which will definitely, to me, lead to Storm showing up somewhere somehow.
Yeah, because she was one of the first mutants for sure.
So they're gonna do that. Riri Williams being at MIT means she's gonna cross over with Spider-Man at some point because, as you know, everybody but Spider-Man got into MIT, or everybody but Peter Parker got into MIT.
What about Miles? You think it's not that
Miles
far
ain't going to MIT?
It's not the.
It'll cross over with all of that, but he's not going to MIT.
I'm just saying, like, in the story, do you think they're going to bring him into this new universe?
Yeah, they're going to bring him into the young Avengers. That's going to be that whole team. Because by the time Miles get here, it'll be Miles, young T'Challa, Miss Marvel, and Scarlet Witch's children, who I can't think of their name. Timmy and Tommy, I think. I think of their names. It doesn't matter.
James.
Those two.
Jesse.
They introduced Hulk's son, which was interesting because they teased World War Hulk in Thor Ragnarok, and now it seems like they're going to do it. So,
did you notice the Easter egg of her flying as high as she could and then losing her oxygen?
Oh yeah, the whole they gave her just the Iron Man story. Okoye and Midnight Angel, I think it's whatever her new name is. That was a Ta-Nehisi Coates storyline that they're going to be. They basically set it up to where M'Baku is going to be running Wakanda. So Shuri, Okoye, General Ross, or not General Ross, but Ross, the colonizer, as they continue, was her favorite colonizer, as they continually called him, can be pit against Val and her Thunderbolts.
Can we give a hand clap for Martin Freeman?
Yeah,
I like that white guy.
I do too. I think, and they know that.
Yeah,
they intrinsically know that. So that was also set up. There's Namor being Namor is also set up in the fact that Namor gives no fucks, not a single, and he cares and he means what he says. It's just like, I'm gonna get to what we wanted to do, no matter what. It's going down. So that was amazing. Whenever and they set up, obviously Wakanda being attacked and potentially destroyed. They teased it because in the comic books, Namor messed Wakanda up, and Black Panther was on his head tops, as they say, for a very long time, and they were in the Illuminati together. They've shown us a different Illuminati in the Doctor Strange movie, but in the original Illuminati, there's Professor X, Reed Richards, Namor, Black Panther, and I'm probably missing somebody, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, the point being, he's one of those. He's basically the Black Adam of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in the sense that he does stuff that you might not agree with, but he's an anti-hero in that way.
I think Siri having the Shuri, thank you, sorry. Having the Siri. Having the Black Panther for a limited amount of time is part of my disappointment with the story.
Damn, yeah.
Like I just don't feel like, I think it's great that there's a Black Panther, but that it's a missed opportunity to really sit with that character.
Yeah.
And that's what I felt like was missing in the action, right? So they spent so much time grieving and talking about some of these other pieces that they didn't leave room for the intersectionality. They didn't leave room for the action of Shuri, like being the Black Panther.
Yeah.
So so much so where I felt like it was a weak attempt at having a black.
I have in my mind what the original story was before he passed. The original story was Shuri was going to be working on the fruit and bringing the heart-shaped herb back. That's what she was going to do. And she was going to end up doing it and finishing it. Like, maybe Angela Bassett's character, Queen Ramonda, probably does die still. Maybe. But maybe not, depending upon whether or not she wanted to do it again. So she would have created it, and then there would have been more than one. And T'Challa or Shuri would have been able to do exactly what they're doing now. I do think that the decision to put the grief as an aspect changed the movie drastically, because they wanted to give that tribute to him before moving on. So Black Panther 3 and subsequent Black Panther 4 at some point will probably give you more of an expansion of something.
Yeah. But that is a good part of them telling the story this way, is that they don't mess up a sequel. And they don't do it because you could do a sequel wrong. And I feel like this gave them a sort of movie storytelling out to not mess up a budget. And
that's what I felt. And I felt like they did two things right. I did enjoy the fact that they just used his real life as an explanation as to why he's not there. And secondarily, you're still giving us what we wanted in being able to have a T'Challa.
Yeah.
Like, you just gave it to us in a way of naming. And so in 4 or 5 years, we'll be able to, probably longer than that, we'll be able to actually see this young actor on screen, and kids will get to feel represented again, or whatever they're going to feel at that time. But they'll have, what I said when I left the movies, they get their own T'Challa, and I respect it.
The younger generation?
The younger generation. It won't be
fuck
us.
Them niggas.
Yo, not the kids. So
it's mine. No, just kidding.
Yeah, but I did think that was cool. The M'Baku setup, everything was, like I said, that Ta-Nehisi Coates run of Black Panther, which, if you haven't read, I think is amazing reading. It is just really, really good, and how he took his time to kind of explain this right here, which was Black Panther had been gone for a while. Shuri had taken over and was doing the duties of the Black Panther. Okoye, and I cannot think of the other girl's name. I can just forget her name every time. The girl from that British show, chewing gum, I think, or whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Y'all know who I'm talking about.
We seen it.
Y'all seen it. And if you haven't seen it, why are you here?
It's fine.
Go see.
It's fine. Spoilers are okay.
So I like the setup of all the characters that are going to be doing other things. I like the fact that in the Marvel Universe, the thing that makes it the Marvel Universe or makes us excited is you can tell us a segregated story or whatever about, or isolated story is a much better word given the context of this this movie. You can tell an isolated story of Spider-Man or whatever, but it's like, I know that Spider-Man exists in a world with Deadpool. I know that Black Panther lives in a world with Namor, with Storm, with all of these different people, with the fact that, he met the Fantastic Four before, and so that was his introduction in these comics. So making those connection points of this greater world that they exist in, and how, Superman can't fight everybody in Metropolis. Well, he can, but he can't fight everybody in the world. So having Batman in Gotham, having Green Arrow in Coast City, whatever it's called, having Daredevil in all these different places is something that I really appreciate about these movies, because it just expands that greater universe. But yeah,
what you said. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. That is all of my geeking out. I mean, there's a lot more Easter eggs, but I didn't write them all down. I've only seen the movie once, and I'm not rushing back to see it anytime soon because, like I said, it is triggering for me. But it might not be for you.
Let's get out of here.
And a 1 and a 2 and a Kamehameha.
No.
What? A 1 and a 2 and a Wakanda Forever.
No.
Oh my God. What? Is that a 1 and a 2 and a peace.